Hi, I'm Beck and welcome to a reading vlog. I am going to start this vlog with a roast, and that is because I've been reading the first binding and I'm now 91 pages into it. I really wanted to get to 100 pages, but 91 ended on a chapter, so I'm more than happy to leave it there. And you can probably tell, judging by the post-its and my tone, that this is unfortunately going to be a DNF for me. And I feel like I tried really hard, but the writing style was just not capturing me. It felt like a very drawn out story, but in an unnecessary way rather than an intriguing way. And it took like 80 pages for us to get to the point of this main character, and he's starting to actually begin telling his story to a character that he doesn't know. And I was thinking, why are you setting things up this way? It's pretty nonsensical and it's just catering for the flair of the main character. He says in the book, I've learned 10 bindings all men must know and mastered them all. I've seen the faces of a dozen beings, all said to be the one true God, and I've bested them all. I have stolen lost magics best forgotten and was cursed for it. And it felt like this should be dramatic, but honestly it just read like posturing to me, and it wasn't intriguing at all. It was at the point where I was just frustrated by this character rather than intrigued by anything he could be doing. So unfortunately that's why I'm going to put it down. When I initially updated on my Goodreads that I was starting this book, a couple of people came out of the woodwork to comment that it's like it's a ripoff of The Name of the Wind, and I honestly don't think that, because The Name of the Wind starts out with a character in a tavern that is removed from his past and he tells someone his story, but that is quite a key way to set up a fantasy story. So I don't think setting up this in a similar vein is any type of ripping off The Name of the Wind. What I do feel like it lacked in this book was the particular writing style and quality of Patrick Rothfuss. So if you combined Patrick Rothfuss's writing style with this book, you might have kept me a little bit more interested, but still I would not have been caring about the protagonist. Especially with what has been done so far, I'm just finding it particularly boring, and I can't do that for 800 pages. So it is unfortunately going. It is dismissed. I then borrowed 3 more volumes of Ragnar Crimson, which is the dragon manga series that I'm currently reading, and these aren't due back until the very end of the month, so I have a little bit of time to read these, and obviously they're manga so they should be fairly short, but I don't really feel like them right this minute. So I guess it's lucky that I got this cool package, and it's from a publisher. It's a PR package, but it's one that I accepted a request for, and it's a science fiction. Honestly, like, look how cool that is. It's got such an interesting label. Even though the wrapping is simple, I feel like it's quite effective. It's called Of Monsters and Mainframes. I've got a tickle in my throat. Calm down me. Okay, we've got this sci-fi book. I think it's by an Australian author. It recently got a bunch of hype from a random TikTok review, and since then has been doing the rounds. And usually I would get worried with TikTok reviews, but in this case I read through the synopsis and I'm really intrigued by it. And it says spaceships aren't programmed to seek revenge, but for Dracula, Demeter will make an exception. It seems like Demeter, the spaceship, just wants to do her job, which is shuttling humans between Earth and Alpha Centauri. Unfortunately, her passengers keep dying, and not from equipment failures as her AI medical system steward would have her believe. These are paranormal murders, and they began when one nasty ancient vampire decided to board Demeter and kill all her humans. To keep from getting decommissioned, Demeter must join forces with her own team of monsters. A werewolf, an engineer built from the dead, a pharaoh with otherworldly powers, a vampire with a grudge, a fleet of cheerful spider drones, and together this motley crew will face down the ultimate evil, Dracula. Doesn't that just sound kind of adorable in a sense, even though it's about murder? Like, come on, this sounds great. So I think this will be my next physical read, and I've been waiting to open this on camera to actually start it, so I might start it tonight depending on how I feel. I'm recovering from the past couple of days. I've had food poisoning and it's just taken me a bit longer than I expected to get back on my feet, so if I have the attention span after work to focus on a book, then I will do that. Otherwise I will rest and get back to you at some point during the week, because I do plan on starting this pretty soon. Hello, it is now a day or two later, or like a day and a half later, and I'm updating you from the couch because yesterday, like I said, my food poisoning situation just made me feel completely garbage. even though I'm past food poisoning, with pregnancy it tends to linger and mess up your digestion. So that's what I'm really struggling with right now. So I'm just trying to eat really simple and drink a lot of water. That's why I've got my drink bottle with me. And I've also been reading. So I got 100 pages into this and it was so easy to read 100 pages. I am immediately sucked into this book, and it said in the synopsis that it is about Demeter, the AI on this spaceship, trying to track down Dracula with this motley crew. So it was giving like found family vibes almost, but at the moment it's not really that angle, so it feels like it's been a little bit mismarketed, but I've still got a while to go. It's a 400-page book and I'm 100 pages in, so there could be more added to the story. I feel like the blurb or the synopsis just gave a lot away. What this has somehow managed to do is create a sense of coziness and of trust and a feeling of endearment almost, that somehow contrasted with like the logic of AI, because I'm really liking Demeter as a character and she's not a person. And there's also another AI named Stuart, and he is the health AI. So he is separate in the health bay and she is in charge of traveling the ship, and I like their go-betweens. She's got power over him just in her programming, so it's funny when he says something she doesn't like, she's like, go to sleep, and he just powers down. So that's a little bit hilarious. But in terms of setting up the deaths on this and the characterization and Demeter's purpose and intent, and it really just raised the stakes, which I realize is a mild vampire pun, which is unintentional. But there was also an instance of a second attack, and it's almost like things are getting wiped from record. So something is going on and Demeter is trying to get to the bottom of it, and she's being cordoned off from doing that. And I'm just fascinated to see where this goes, because it got me a little bit in the heartstrings recently with some characters it introduced and their need for survival, and Demeter trying to help them as best she can. And I just want to know what happens next. So I'm really looking forward to reading this, but at the moment we've just had dinner, we finished work for the day, and we've got a leg workout to do. So it will just be light, but I don't want to do it. I just want to sit on the couch and read, which is a sign that this book is good. The fact that I'm thinking about it and I haven't picked it up today, that's a good sign. So I'm looking forward to revisiting this, and I'll update you when I've read some more. Unfortunately, I was planning on reading an audiobook because I recently finished The Devils by Joe Abercrombie, and that was great. It was a 4-star read for me, and I was pleasantly surprised that even though Joe Abercrombie introduces all of these morally grey characters that you feel like shouldn't be connected in the sense that they are a found family, somehow these characters felt like they were tethered together with a sense of obligation, and I cared in different ways about the outcomes of all of them. And I didn't feel that way reading his First Law books. I just cared about maybe 1 or 2 characters, and to be fair, I had favourites in The Devils, but I was still interested generally in hearing about all of the characters that he introduced. So that was a great book, and he actually nailed the ending. And I have an issue with Joe Abercrombie and his endings. They just don't feel fulfilling to me. So I'm happy that this one stuck the landing. If this is a series, I can see how it might be revisited, but in terms of just this book, it does what it needs to do, it stays as long as it needs to stay, and it executed the ending. So I don't feel like it necessarily needs continuing, but it can do in different ways if that's what he wants to do. And I know in the past he's written the First Law and then he's done the standalone books after, and I just hope that if he goes down the standalone books route that they're actually not boring, because I was really bored by the other books that he wrote after First Law. They just didn't hit the same. So I'm hoping that any continuation of The Devils is good. But anyway, that was great. Unfortunately, because I've been sick, I haven't been into the office, which gives me an excuse to be cozy on the couch, but as a detriment to my reading, it means that I haven't started an audiobook next. I know what I'm going to start, and that is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, and that was my TBR generator pick for when I did my May to be read video. So I'll link my May TBR below if you want to go and check out that video. But that is a romance book. It's the second book in Abby Jimenez's series. The first book is Part of Your World, and I gave that a 5 stars. So I'm looking forward to reading more romance, especially after reading a grimdark fantasy and having the first binding on my TBR and feeling like I need to be in that high fantasy space. I've definitely pivoted into sci-fi and I'm very happy with where I'm landing on this. And then I've got fantasy in terms of the Ragnar Crimson volumes, but I'm feeling a romance, and I think yours truly is going to come at just the right time as well. So it's now been a day since I updated from the couch, and in that couch update I said, oh yeah, that next audiobook that I start, it'll be yours truly, but I've still been feeling pretty ordinary, so I haven't gone into work. But yesterday, like, peak laziness hit me and I was sitting on the couch again and I just started the audiobook because Dave was watching Severance, the latest episodes, and I thought, well, if he's watching his show, maybe I can just chill out with him and listen to my audiobook instead. So I did that, and then he got busy and went to a workout class and I didn't move. So I ended up finishing yours truly yesterday. I finished it in one night and I want to say that it is one of my new favorites. It's a 5-star read. I cried in this book. I teared up multiple times. I was kicking my feet at these two characters, and it follows Brianna and Jacob. So Brianna and Jacob are both doctors. They're at this hospital. Jacob has just started at the hospital Brianna's worked at for 10+ years because he's moved from his old hospital due to breaking up with his ex-girlfriend Amy. But Amy is now dating his brother and they're just getting engaged. So there's a bit of tumultuousness going on in his personal life, coupled with he's got very strong social and just anxiety in general. So it was great to see his thought processes, his mediating efforts, and his interactions as well through that anxiety lens, and I found that really accentuated his character. And then we've also got Brianna, and she's somebody who has been abandoned by her father as a kid. Her mum was a single mum raising her. Her partner of more than 12 years was cheating on her with one of her close friends for 2 years, and both of them were still, you know, talking to her, pretending nothing was going on, and she ended up finding out, and she's just finalized her divorce. So now she's like, I don't trust men. She's got significant trust issues and trauma from the men abandoning her and betraying her in her life. And then enter Jacob, and they get off on the wrong foot. She walks into him in the corridor and breaks his phone by accident, and when he brings that up to her, he comes across as someone who's just quite rude. And so when they start off on that negative foot, I was like, oh, this is going to be good, because they've got time to make up for it. So they end up writing letters, like handwriting letters to each other in the hospital, and through that Brianna gets more understanding of Jacob, and they build this really nice, close, intimate, emotive connection. And from that point on, it also discusses Brianna's brother and going through his kidney failure and then receiving an anonymous donor. And then also from Jacob's perspective, he lies about having a girlfriend for his family to think that he's feeling better and more healed after his breakup with Amy, because him and his entire family have been invited to their engagement and their wedding, and he is like, well, if I don't act normal about this, then that's going to reflect on the whole family and they're going to take my lead, so I need to be good about this so that everything lands okay. All in all, usually I would get a bit frustrated when characters don't always talk to each other, and I was a little bit annoyed. I was like, oh, come on, Brianna, you're so close, just say something, because she would really struggle to be vulnerable and to be trusting. And so sometimes she would see things and make assumptions, and that would be just the way that the scene played out. And because Jacob had anxiety, that was a bit of a barrier to him sometimes communicating in the moment. But both of them were almost realistic facets of each other's character. So instead of it dragging the story down, it actually built more depth into the story and built more foundation for them to actually connect with each other. So it could have been bad, but I actually found I respected it in this book, and the characters were built up so well, which Abby Jimenez tends to do, that I could really get on board with both of their viewpoints and their actions. And I just honestly loved them finally having that moment of realization. Like, oh, so good, so good. Like I said, I cried during this book multiple occasions, and I started it and then listened all through, and then I went to bed. So that was a glaring success. In terms of what I want to read next on audio, I've got no idea. I did clock Silverborn by Jessica Townsend in my May to be read video, but I don't really feel like a middle grade story right now, so it might be my backup audiobook if I can't find anything else, but I honestly just don't feel like it. So My audio space is a bit muddled. And then I'm still reading Of Monsters and Mainframes, which I'm enjoying, but I'll save that for an update when I've read some more. And a book just came in at my library and I want to go and pick it up. But again, it's not quite suitable for this vlog. So I'm like, what do I read though? So I'll have to update you when I actually can make a choice. This is not the best angle. I promise my head is not an egg, and I do have hair. Anyway, I wanted to come in and update you because I finally finished this book and I'm giving it a 3.5 stars. I was really hooked at the beginning, and then it kind of went on almost a reiterative journey of monsters, massacre, decommissioning this ship, and it did that a couple of times, but it set up different points in the story that the second half of the book could then pivot on later. So it was almost, in a sense, necessary setup, and I didn't dislike it, but it just lost a bit of momentum for me. But in terms of the last section, I expected a bit more found family dynamic given the synopsis, and I think the synopsis, like I said earlier, led me a bit astray because it's more like a ragtag group that don't want to work together end up finding each other rather than characters who are forged by trust working together. So those are two different vibes for me. I'm not sure if anyone else feels differently to me, but this was overall a fun book and I'm happy that I read it. It took me not long at all, honestly. It's really fast paced and fun, so I would recommend giving it a try. It's also very queer friendly. There are queer relationships and representation all through here. With it being pretty effortless, it's just part of the world, so that was also nice to see. It gave it like a cozy and trustful dynamic too. Holding this camera up makes my arm tired. But that's all I really wanted to say about this, really. I enjoyed it. I think you should read it if you like sci-fi because it was a fun time, and now I have space on my TBR to pick up something else. So it's probably a good thing that I went to the library because I picked up two things. The first thing was this book, The Baker and the Bard, and it's, I think, a cozy fantasy story that's obviously a graphic novel format. So I'm looking forward to reading that in the next coming week because this has sparked a oh, I should probably read some stuff on my Toby Red cart, so stay tuned for that vlog that's going to be coming up next. But the other thing that I wanted to read was this, The Wind Weaver, and it's been a book that has been on a lot of popular lists, I think, and I just wanted to see what all the hype was about because I haven't really seen any negative reviews, I haven't seen any positive reviews, and it just looks like a beautiful cover and one that I wanted to try out. So this is probably going to be my next physical read, and then I'll read a bunch of the cozy books that are on my to be read cart. So buckle up and I'll see what I can do in the next couple of days. You know when you wash your hair and you just feel like a human again? Anyway, I read more of The Wind Weaver and I'm now like 60 pages into it, and I've decided that for no negative reason, it's just not a book that is for me, but I know enough about it to describe what it is now, so I'll tell you a little bit about it before I say why I've stopped reading it. So it follows Rhea or Rhea Fleetwood, and she is, I think, a fae because she's got pointed ears. At the beginning of the book, she's captured. She ends up being saved from capture by this guy named Scythe, who takes her away with the intent of keeping her alive, but you're not sure why. So already it's setting up this captor and protector romance, and I'm not really into that dynamic, but it does clearly state that in the synopsis. So I knew that going in, and I just hoped that I might be able to get past my particular dislike of that trope, but it's not that trope that made me stop reading it. It's just really the writing style. The writing is very descriptive, and I found that I was actually like not disliking the book, but I found that I was just not getting a spark from it, unfortunately, and I liked the dialogue enough, I liked the characters enough, I liked the intent of the story enough, I want to know why he needs her alive. Part of me thinks that he's also a fae because he's had his helmet on this entire time, so I'm like, what's going on here? What is happening with this world? Why does she need to be alive? So I have all these questions, and they will probably be answered in this book, but I'm just not really feeling it, to be honest, and that's okay. That is completely okay. And I gave it a try, and it just means that it's not for me. And honestly, it's hit or miss with popular books for me because I find that some people are just completely ravenous for particular tropes, and again, this is not a trope that I particularly reach for, so already I was a bit on the outer anyway, and I just hoped that maybe the writing style and characterization would pull me in and convince me, and it was good, but it just wasn't enough. So that is why I'm probably going to be returning this pretty soon to the library, and it means that I've got more space now on my to be read pile to read a few cozier things before June hits. I've got one 1 week to read like 4 cozy things, so wish me luck. That will be my next vlog. That's why I picked up The Baker and the Bard graphic novel. I've got a couple more things on my to be read pile. After I film this clip, I'm going to go for a walk and I'll put on an audiobook because I've chosen what to read next. So look out for that next vlog because I'll be trying to read as much as possible. I feel like this vlog was very much a finish what I've already got going on and then make some decisions. And I feel like I've very much done that. I've even gone out on a limb and tried something new from the library. So I'm pretty happy with my progress. I finished, I think, 2 books during this time. I DNF'd 1, which was the first binding. I'm pretty happy with my reading, honestly. It does feel like a bit of a lackluster end to this reading vlog, but I just want to say that I'm enjoying my reading. I've got exciting plans for June. I just filmed my June TBR, so I'm very, very keen to share that with you. But that is all for this reading vlog. Let me know what you're currently reading, if you've read any of these, if you liked them. I would be interested to know, especially Wind Weaver actually. Is it your thing or is it not? But thank you so much for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.